Hey guys, this video is for educational purposes only. Please do not break the law. Hey Tim, welcome to the Growers MBA Podcast.
Hey, what's going on, man? How are you, James?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for joining me today. Tim, why don't you tell me a bit about yourself?
Yeah, man. I've been in the industry about 10 years, about 8 or so with GreenBroz. So I'm pretty stoked to be on here to talk about that. And been around cannabis my whole life. My dad was one of the first Prop 215 medical cannabis holders in California, which is where I used to live. And him and my brother would grow, in my high school and college days, I'd always go home and they'd have, 10, 12, 20 plants going at a time. I'd have to do trim parties with them and stuff like that too. But as I got older, just kind of navigated my way back to it and still stoked to be in here all these years later.
Sweet. That's pretty interesting, man. So from a very young age, you could almost say that, the passion for cannabis was kind of cultivated inside of you.
Yeah, I mean, I never knew it was going to be, if I'm being honest with you. Like I went to school and it wasn't really a big part of my life. And then after I got through college, it kind of just lined up to get into the space. I worked with the media company in the cannabis space for a little while, and then the opportunity came up. I knew Cullen, the CEO at GreenBroz, and he brought me on board and was just a very flexible, great person to work with. U.S. military veteran. He was in the Navy, and I respect the heck out of that. And everything GreenBroz does is made in America, so it's an easy company to work for.
What made you kind of find your way into the post-harvest space with GreenBroz?
Yeah, I mean, when I was transitioning at the time into my next company, I was looking for where the opportunity was and what made a lot of sense. And so I evaluated a couple of different opportunities and looking at how GreenBroz operated. Again, veteran-owned company, made in America. Those were ethos that I really identify with. But then seeing so many growers grow the plant, and they're so psyched when they take you into their grow. I've been into hundreds of grows. They take you into the grow where the flower's beautiful. You're smelling it inside the grow room. And then you go to their post-harvest and they show you kind of what is in that final packaging that's making it to the customer. And it doesn't look anything like that flower they were so psyched about a second ago. And so getting into post-harvest, I was like, there's got to be a way to get it from cutting it down to in the package to where you open it and you get that same feeling of being in the dispensary or in the grow and seeing it growing. And so that's why I get so psyched, because it's a company that really prides itself on doing that, on making you proud of that package that the consumer is going to open up at home and be like, wow, I need to get more of this.
Right. And, we've sold a few of your guys' machines and we've heard nothing but praise from the end result from it. I can definitely give feedback on that end that our customers love the GreenBroz machines. Well, let me ask you this. What is the necessary problem that GreenBroz is trying to solve in the cannabis industry? Because there are a lot of post-harvest trimmers, buckers, extractors out there, but what kind of is the GreenBroz difference?
The overarching problem everyone's trying to solve is how do we do more with less? How do we get more out of our small labor force that we have, or trim that labor force back, but still maintain the quality? And a lot of people have a misconception that you need to have a lot of hands on the plant after it's cut down, between getting it cut down into the package to maintain quality. And 10 years ago, when I first got into this space, there were so many snake oil companies saying that their post-harvest solutions would help you get X, Y, and Z. And so many people got jaded because they just weren't getting the results that these companies were promising. And so everyone is still looking for that automation and how to do more with less. And when I say more with less, biggest misconception is we're trying to take away trimmer jobs or other jobs that are on post-harvest. It's not about that. I've had multiple companies I've worked with that take the 30-40% labor savings and put it right back into their grow room. So now instead of having 2 or 3 people in that grow room, turning rooms over, clipping plants, doing the maintenance on those that have to happen, they double that. They take 3 or 4 of those trimmers and put them into the grow room. And now every plant has more hands on. The rooms get turned faster. They get cleaned faster. They're producing more in the same footprint that they were operating in before and making that work more for them. So you can actually redesign your labor force to make your rooms more productive, and you can produce in your post-harvest side faster. So in your same footprint, you could look at a 2 to 3x, no problem, because of the process adjustment. Where GreenBroz is different is everything is based on quality. And I know a lot of companies say that, and that's the biggest thing that we fight, is everyone is using the same talking points of we want quality, we want quality, we want quality. You look at, in our space, there's, just trimming. There's a lot of barrel trimmers where you put your product in one end, it comes out the other end. It can go as fast as you want. If you look at how those machines are designed, there's 2 long blades or 3 long blades along the circular tube, and your flower whips around through there, and it has to hit that blade to shave it. Imagine taking a machete and trimming leaves off a tree with a machete. That's what you're doing. And you have no control over that process. The bud goes in, comes out. That's it. That's your control. With GreenBroz, if you look at the way the blades turn, it actually forms hundreds of little diamond patterns that look like scissors. And why do hand trimmers use scissors and not a machete? For that level of detail that they can get in there. And that's exactly what GreenBroz does. It's like putting 100 pairs of scissors inside the hand of the operator. The operator can work in the machine while it's working. They're not going to cut their hands off. It's a quiet machine. You don't have to wear ear protection. You can literally take a bud out of the machine. Go on our Instagram, GreenBroz_Inc. You can take a bud out of the machine while it's working, hold it up. If it's done, you take it out. You don't have to put it back in there and watch it over trim. You should never over trim in this machine because the operator has that hands on. So that's one of the biggest factors of what we do. The capacity and the throughput can be scaled with multiple machines or just running it more. People think about automation and trimming and they think it has to be fast. But how fast can you get through it? Can you do 20, 30, 40 pounds an hour? I had literally had a grow the other day that does about 50 pounds a month. And they asked, how fast can you trim it? And I said, you're doing 50 pounds a month. You don't need to go fast. You're not in the fast market. You're in the boutique market. You should be going slow to get the best quality product you have or you can get. And so changing that narrative of how fast production needs to happen, 90% of the grows out there should not be worried about how fast they can get through trimming. They should be worried about their quality because the markets don't demand speed, they demand quality. And that's what we do the best. I mean, you look at the people we use that use our stuff and they're top brands that are known for that boutique quality. And that's the big differentiator.
And it's a huge differentiator as well because that quality as well, I mean, when it really comes down to it, is about profit. That quality turns into a higher priced product. And so let me ask you a question, Tim. What exactly qualifies as a quality post-harvest product? What's a beautiful, beautiful post-harvest bud in your opinion?
It's all about trichome preservation. So the things that I look for is how close can we resemble that flower in the end product to what it looked like when you cut it down. And so you're going to see beautiful trichomes that cure over time, obviously, but foxtails, calyxes, things that will in other trimming methods get trimmed off and turned into, golf balls and pine cones, again, because of that flat blade that it has to hit. And it kind of indiscriminately chops your flower down and it will popcorn bigger buds down to smaller buds. So the high level answer to that is making it as close to the beginning product as possible. Because once you cut down the plant, all you can do is make it worse. Every process you do between cutting it down and putting it into that bag can be done to make it worse or to preserve it as is. You can't improve it. Like it's done. That's the best you can do. So using the gentle processes across that board is getting you that end product that's true. So remember that Dana Carvey skit from a long, long time ago, you can't piss into a Mr. Coffee and get taster's choice. That's what he said. And it's the same thing. Quality in is quality out inside of these machines. The machine has to be able to maintain what's going in.
That's a beautiful and very simple answer. I love that you're not overcomplicating it. It's just a quality bud is something that's really as close to how it was originally when you chopped it down. It's really easy to understand and great explanation. So I want to ask you guys' machines, they're an investment for sure. And I want to ask about your warranty policy and return policy if you have one, as well as what type of training comes with these machines, because and how easy are they to learn how to use?
For sure. Great question. Really easy answer. So we have a 3-year manufacturer's warranty across the board. We do oftentimes service stuff that's outside of warranty because for us, it makes no sense not to provide the best support we can for our clients. Our support team's fantastic. It's led by a U.S. Navy vet because we do hire a lot of veterans into the company whenever we can. And we manufacture everything out of our Las Vegas facility. The company was founded in San Diego, moved to Vegas a handful of years ago because the warehouse space was bigger, cheaper than California. Nevada is very business friendly. Plus, it was central to the U.S. And so we can get parts spread out throughout the U.S. a lot easier. We do not charge for training. So once a machine gets to you, we will get on as many calls, FaceTime, video chats, whatever. We'll go through it with you. We also have academy resources on our website that tell you basically quick starts, how-tos, all that kind of stuff. But yeah, we'll work with you the entire time. It's an investment. We get one machine in with you. We don't just do trimming. Our sorter is the most gentle sorter on the market and can go as fast as any other machine. Our grinder is the best grinder on the market. It's specifically designed to preserve trichomes. So you can look at ground material through a microscopic lens and you will see intact stalks with intact heads in there. You won't see a lot of grinders whirl and twist everything around and you're left with this powderized dust where it's keef on one side and then plant material on one side. That's not the way to do it. And our grinder even takes stems out of the process. So you de-stem out of that material. Cookies uses it. There's a lot of other high brands that use that grinder, and then we can do dry sip. So our whole ideology is providing amazing warranty, amazing service, because you get one machine in with us. Next, you're going to be like, well, what about that sorter? What about that grinder? You get to know the quality and the people that you're dealing with. And so the support is kind of never ending in terms of people that have our machines.
Cool. So it's very plug and play. You can start off with something small. And I do want to dive into your guys' products a bit here, but you can start off with something small, slowly expand. And, with the extra profit you'll be making from these machines, it probably won't take too long to expand anyways. Let's dive into your guys' products a little bit. You guys sell trimmers. You guys have trichome extractors, grinders, as you've mentioned, and the sorting system, which we can jump into a bit here. What I like about GreenBroz is that you guys do have a hobby level trimmer with the harvest bucket, which I think is really cool. You can go watch those videos, but it's a super simple machine. Let's talk about that a little bit.
We've always been kind of commercially focused. Our M Light, or previously our 215 tabletop trimmer, you'd see in some home operations or smaller operations, but the price point of $4,000 to $8,000, it's kind of prohibitive to get home growers into there. So what they did in the shop is they took the blade design that's in our Model M and our M Light, that open and closing of the diamond pattern, and they thought, how can we bring this to the consumer level? Because there just should be a better option. If you look at, the Trimble or the nicer scissors out there that can help in that instance, it's just stagnant. There's not a lot of innovation that's happened at that price point. And so our engineers literally scaled down the trimming process to where it would fit on something as simple as a Home Depot bucket that you can get for, $6 at the store. It'll fit, Home Depot, Lowe's, any commercial bucket like that. But basically, you just cinch it onto the top of the bucket. You can put your flour into it, maybe a half a pound at a time. And then all you have to do is have not a variable speed drill. I like a variable speed drill, but any kind of drill does it. And you supply your own power, and it moves really quick, and it provides that same level of gentle trimming to that process. Now, I'm someone who hand trimmed for years and years inside of a home grow. I'd have a little white paper plate with some bud, and I'd sit there and do this while we were playing some MLB The Show and taking turns with the character we developed and played for years, right? You know what I mean? You're just killing time and hanging out. This cuts all of that out. Home growers can easily achieve a home grow level trim. And how many times have we all trimmed our home grow where we're like, I don't care. I'm so tired of doing this. I'm not entering a show. You just want it trimmed, right? This product will do that for you in a way that you can look at, and you'll be stoked at how it looks afterwards.
Yeah, that's really cool that you guys do have the commercial options available as well as the home trimmer option as well. And, they can start off there and, who knows, eventually graduate to the next products we'll talk about here, the Model M's and the M Light. So why don't you tell me a bit about who these are? They're obviously not for a home grower, but in what scenario would someone want to get the Model M or the M Light in terms of how many plants they have or how much yield they have? How can someone decide on which one they should be thinking about?
Yeah, great question. Generally, the 50 to 100 pound range is the split. So the M Light is designed for the small to mid size. It can do about a pound of flour at a time. So I have grows that are upwards towards 75 or 100 pounds a month that do use the M Light. It's a little bit more labor intensive, but at the same time, we're talking about those boutique level grows where they want eyes on their trim the entire time. So they have a trimmer who sits in front of that machine. They put a pound in, and a lot of times they'll actually have scissors in their hand, and they'll take buds out and hand manicure while they're using the machine. They'll use some kind of combination. This is popular with our Model M too, but that's the flexibility both machines provide. Is you can say, hey, I want to trim the outer fan leaves and outer sugar leaves down to about 75% of what's on there. We'll kick it out and we'll spend a half hour doing a QC by hand on that pound. So you have a pound that might take 3 to 4 hours by hand, now taking about 45 minutes. If you could spend 75% less on your trim labor, that's six figures to a lot of companies. And you talk about a machine that's $6 or $7 saving you $100,000. The math happens really fast. And the trimmers, it's so easy to justify ROI, especially if you're coming from a hand trim. So if I was a smaller mid-size, I'd jump in with an M Light. I'd shift all of my B's, C's, and popcorn directly into the machine. Eventually, once they learn the machine, they'll be trimming their A's in there as well. But in the first year, you'll see a 50% reduction in your trim costs, at least, guaranteed. Now, when you talk about 75 to 100 pounds and up, the Model M, I mean, upwards towards 400 or 500 pounds a month can get through that with that one machine. Now, if you're at 500 pounds, you have a dedicated person running that machine all the time because you can get through, 50 to 60 pounds a day. Again, can you go faster? Yes, but you don't want to. There's no reason to. You can get through the weight that you need to, and some of them will move on to a second and third machine. But that's generally how we slice it. And then something to pay attention to, we do have a new release coming out. You didn't even know this, but we have what we're calling the M1, which is a GMP version of our Model M. So it's going to be about 2/3 the price of our current Model M. So it's going to be a more affordable machine, same throughput, same footprint, but it's made to GMP specifications, which is huge in the international market. Canada, international, all need GMP. US, we think that's coming as well, but it's a extremely fast machine to clean, and it's going to be standardized as the friendliest machine to regulators. It basically eliminated nooks and crannies. The machine comes together, pulls apart in under 2 minutes. And so that's something we're super, super excited about to add another SKU. And then the last SKU besides that is the M Plus, which is our automated trimming system. It's fed by an automated conveyor into the machine. That machine is the Model M, but it's got batch programmability. If you've got a strain like Mandarin cookies and you know that it takes 6 minutes in the trimmer, you can load in a certain amount, run it for 6 minutes, have the doors automatically open, flower comes out, load it again. So now you're taking your operator and putting them onto something else. And we kind of escalate from there. So our machines are kind of like Lincoln Logs where you can build your own setup depending on the end SKUs that you're looking for. But that basically covers it from a trim side.
Hey guys, quick interruption here. I just want to let you know that every single product mentioned on this episode is available for sale at greenthumbdepot.com. We love hearing from growers just like you. So if you mention that you heard about us on this episode, we might even be able to throw in a bit of a discount. You can shoot me a personal email at james@greenthumbdepot.com or give us a call at 833-416-0375. We have the best prices on the internet and the best customer service. Not to mention, we offer free shipping across the continental U.S. with no sales tax outside of Nevada. All right, let's get back to the episode. Wonderful answer, and I can tell when you're talking about it, you have so much passion. You're so excited about it. So that's the type of people we love to work with, and it's just cool to see that type of passion with something that you do. And also, thank you for breaking the news of the M1 on the Growers MBA podcast. Let's move on. The Alchemist Trichome extractors. Tell me a bit about that. How is that different than the other machines?
Yeah, so our CEO, Colin Reichert, was the designer of the original trimmers that we made, but that wasn't his first design. His first design was actually the Alchemist keef box. What happened was he was in Southern California at the time and had a friend, I think up in Washington, and Colin, if you hear this, pardon me for butchering your story, went up to Washington and the guy basically had a ton of trim. And it's just like, what do I do like with all this trim material? And so Colin said, I had an idea. He went and designed what is in essence a giant keef box, right? So a big box with 6 sides. 4 of those sides have a steel, I think it's steel mesh screen at whatever micron you're choosing to use for that. But basically your product will rotate end over end in a square box. And then it can be used with or without dry ice on the product. To explain that, the process of sifting, and if anyone has, a grinder at home with a little keep screen on the bottom, whatever, all that's happening is the trichome is hitting the screen and separating from the leaf material. That's what sift is. Okay, you don't have to make it any more complicated than that. You're removing your plant material by scraping it off. And so what was happening is a lot of these operators were wholesaling their trim material to distillate companies or extract companies for 10% of the value that they would get if they just did this dry sift process. You can make edibles, gummies, moon rocks, all these products you can make in your grow. You don't need a C1D1 fireproof, bomb-proof. A lot of states, you don't even need a processor's license because all you're technically doing is sift. There's no extraction happening. But by using dry ice or ice cold material, like frozen material inside of a cold room, you're able to make that plant nice and rigid instead of floppy. It's rigid. The stalk sticks off, and when it hits the screen, shears right off. The reason ours is square instead of a lot of the circular options you see that are made with like a nylon plastic or whatever is because the agitation you get in a square tumble helps the leaf come down and hit that screen. And so we get a much more pure sift than any of the circular sift tumble machines that you see out there. Not to mention we use the steel micron screens are extremely high quality. And what that does is some of the other machines out there use like a plastic screen and you'll get microplastics in your stuff. And there are some states that are more lax on that. And so that's okay. Consumers aren't necessarily aware that that's happening. But if you use steel components, it happens way, way less. And so where that machine is huge, it's big in Canada because they do a lot of sift up there. And then it's really big in US markets where people don't want to get a fireproof, bomb-proof room set up. That can cost hundreds of thousands of dollars. If you want to do bubble hash, you can get into the hundreds of thousands of dollars with a really high-scale bubble hash system. And so it's a really affordable entry point to take your trim and make it into a keef material that you can then go and do a lot of the processing with.
Great answer. I love how in-depth you go with this stuff. So we've already touched on the Model G and the grinders, basically. Was there anything else you want to touch on that? The one thing you did mention that I thought was pretty interesting was how you guys preserve trichome with that. So maybe you could talk a little bit more about that, or is there anything else you wanted to share about those?
In terms of trichome preservation, you can literally, anyone that's listening to this can email us and we can send you pictures. Jack, who's our California territory manager, was literally on site last week and they took a bunch of before and after trichome comparison pictures, ground flower, took pictures of the bud, pre-ground, grind it, and then zoom in close up. And what you see is preserved trichome stalks and heads. You do not see that with other machines out there. One, they either will mill your flower. So it's this big system that's like putting it into a blender and making it into this big powderized mill. And they're milling stems into that. So you're getting stems in your ground stuff. Your pre-rolls are going to have stems. They're going to pop papers, or your consumers are going to get headaches from smoking the stems. It's like Snoop said, no stems, no sticks. Let's go. And so you take that out of the equation and you're left with this particulate. It's not a grind. People are like, you're powderizing. No. We have a particulate. You can literally take these little tiny balls of flour and make your pre-rolls the perfect size. And it was a machine that was designed for pre-roll machines. So in the R&D, we took the Blackbird by Roll Pros, but we built the grinder for these machines. It's not the other way around. Not like Futurola, who's been out for 20 years and now we're trying to adapt that technology for pre-roll. It's not going to work. It's powderized form. So the granulate is so important to feeding these machines correctly so you can run them at 90-95+% efficiencies. We could go on, but it's just those who have adopted it. I can tell you off the top of my head, the clients that I've had who've adopted the grinder love it. It's performing exactly how we need to. And in this space, that's gold.
So what I love to hear about that is because we do sell a lot of those, the pre-rolls that you mentioned as well, the pre-roll machines. And so having someone that already has one of those pre-roll machines, they could just kind of plug this in to just take everything up another notch. It seems like a pretty big no-brainer.
The point to mention on these is looking at these companies' rejection rates, popped papers, and other negatives that happen throughout their process. It's not just about how fast can we make more? It's how can we regain capital from reducing our rejections and the amount of material that we're losing and have to put back through our system. If you have 10, 50 pre-rolls that get rejected in your day, your operation has to stop at the end of their day, take those and either put that material back in the machine, get rid of it, whatever they have to do. So there's a substantial, not only labor, but potential product loss there. Like there's a lot of ways to look at it to where your ground material that's going in your pre-roll machine, that's almost as important as any part of your process.
So in the end, this really just comes down to capital efficiency and making the best use of your flour. Yeah, it's so interesting talking to everybody that I've spoken to because there's so many different ways that you can optimize your yield. And it's fascinating. It's really, really fascinating. And I think any grower out there would really, really get a lot from this conversation. You'd kind of briefly mentioned some of the people you work with. Is there any potential case studies or someone you want to talk about where maybe they started using your guys' machines, saw like a pretty big change in ROI or something you could share, like a nice little story?
Sure. I mean, the stories are great. It depends any way you want to look at it. I've had operations where, it's a medium or small size grow and the mom and pop just want to control their trimming and do it all themselves. They're either in places where they can't hire labor or they don't trust the labor locally. and they'll get a Model M or an M Lite and literally say, I've been able to do everything myself. I've got hundreds of plants coming down. I do 100 pounds a quarter or whatever, and I trim it all myself. Those are the ones that for me are the most rewarding, because money's great, but when I can free up people's time and they're so thankful for the time savings, that's amazing. Countless stories of adoption from hand trim processes, or what I like to call moving on from the machine graveyard. I've been in dozens and dozens and dozens of grows where they have a machine graveyard room of ones they've been told would work, didn't. And they either bring me in for a demo or I'm coming in to train and I see all the things they've tried. 9 times out of 10, I'll hear, we've tried every other machine and someone told us about you guys and that's why you're here, or that's why we're bringing you guys in, because we finally said, we heard about you guys for so long. And I'm there like, why didn't you try us earlier? Because we could have done this. But it's the snake oil thing, right? I mean, it's better now, but 10, 15 years ago, everything out there was just, there wasn't a lot of proof behind the pudding. So there was a lot of people that were kind of dealt stuff that didn't end up working. But no, so some of the larger grows, we've saved hundreds of thousands of dollars in some of these grows where you're looking at 100, 200, 300 pounds a month in efficiencies, whether it's full automated systems. We've got an end-line system that takes your product from trim to sort without you having to physically touch it. So just one end is trimming, comes out sorted in up to 7 different sizes, and that's it. So that's our full M-line system. And we have facilities where we can build multiple of those. I guess no particular story comes up off the top of my head because they all make me so excited to share. And I guess my favorite story is probably the next one.
Great answer. And Tim, you have an enormous amount of experience in the space. I want to touch on the snake oil part of the industry. As someone with so much experience in the space, let's just say not with trimmers, with just products, whatever, in the industry, anything that you can that people are going to try to sell you. How can someone avoid not purchasing snake oil? And, we vet every single supplier that we work with on Green Thumb Depot to make sure that there is no snake oil on Green Thumb Depot. But, if someone's out there and they're not sure, because it is such a complicated industry to be a part of and get into. And especially if you're new, it's hard to tell. Everyone's just trying to sell you something. Do you have any suggestions for someone coming in, how they can avoid not getting screwed over as a newbie?
Yeah, I think working with brands like yourself at Green Thumb Depot who do the work for you is a great tool. And working with vendors that supply and have great relationships with their suppliers. Social media is a great way to check that. Instagram, go on their Instagram page and see what kind of followings they have. Because a lot of times, if you're talking about lighting or nutrients or anything like that, if you find their home page and hear what people are saying, a great frame of reference for that would be like, Athena Nutrients, or there's a new one I like a lot right now, Ventana Plant Science. They're newer to the game. I think they might have an exclusive distributor. I don't know, but brands that you see posting about their products and then people saying, yeah, I use these and it's great. That's still in this space the number one way to not only build your brand, but to build credibility. So that's what I would do. I do that research. Don't fall for what a lot of people put on their site, because the way that it's structured these days, anyone can say anything. There's 10 different trimmers out there. They're all the best at what they do. And all the customers think they're number one. It's not true. There's Pepsi and Coke, but, no one's out here drinking RC Cola every day and trying to sell it as Pepsi. So I guess just do diligence and research and try to find easier ways to enter. One of the reasons we created the Harvest Bucket is we want you to have an easy entry point. And a lot of times we get our products escalated from Harvest Bucket to M Lite to M to, hey, I was at my last job. They used 5-year trimmers. Now I'm at my new job. Word of mouth is so big in this space. So feel free to lean on that. Would be my best advice.
Cool. Where do you see the cannabis industry going in the next 5 to 10 years? Is there any technological advancements coming out that you're excited for? Where do you think we'll be in 5 years?
The funniest part about that question is 5 years ago, I would have said a similar answer to right now, but how far has it really come? I don't know. Looking at the history, I think tells us a lot about where it's going. I don't know if it ever hits any sort of recreational legalization nationwide. I don't know if they'll ever separate the two, because not to be political, but we've had both parties in the Pale Casa or the White House, if you want. What's happened? There's nothing that's happened that's really noticeable over the last 10 years other than at the state level. And so states are going to continue to do what they want to do. And I think the state programs are kind of the part of why I'm saying this too, is to put that negativity out there, because maybe we've all been thinking it's going to legal. Let's start saying it's not going to legalize. Let's buck the trend and go the other way, and maybe it'll happen, right? But I think what's happening with the state legalizations that are happening is what needs to happen, and that really is it. Because I think federal government will back off until there's a point where it makes enough sense to where they have to monetize it, whether that's on a political platform or it's just their arms twisted. There's so many states that want it. The part that's really hard is I cover a lot of states for GreenBroz, and for instance, the Oklahoma crowd, they're suffering big time just due to poor legislation in the state. They're constantly, every month given a new hoop they have to jump through. There's growers suing the state of Oklahoma right now because there's such a backlog in auditing and backlog in testing that they can't bring their products to market, and it kills anyone that wants to compete. Some states have monopolies. So I think what we're going to see over the next 5 to 10 years is more chaos, if I'm being honest with you, in states. I think new states are going to come on board. I think we're going to see more maturity in some markets like Colorado and California, more legacy markets. It's really interesting. And I don't know if your listeners will agree, but looking at it as we do, as how much equipment is going into each state. We saw California and Colorado take a really serious dip in the last, couple of years. But last year and coming into this year, that's really picked up. And if you look at the legislation in those states, California, the taxes were insane. And they just started kind of in the last year walking back and tweaking some of that to make it a little bit more friendly for operators. Colorado, the same. So all these states like New Mexico, Oklahoma, Massachusetts, on and on and on, you're going to see them keep going up. New Mexico hit another all-time high in sales last year. That's going to plateau. Prices are going to bottom out. Everyone's going to close. You're going to hear, oh my God, what's happening? It'll level out, and then it's going to start going again. So personally, I don't think anything changes in the next 5 to 10 years other than what's happening right now is going to keep happening.
So it'll be a slow kind of grind up. Maybe the states will just slowly. There's probably not going to be an overnight change. It's not going to be, oh, hey, it's legal everywhere. No.
It would be scary if there was. If they legalized federally tomorrow, there's no system for that. There's no framework. Like California's been at it for 20 years, and look at their system. If they federally legalize tomorrow, what's going to happen is the states are going to sue because they want to have their program, right? If you're California, you spent how many years developing your own program, and now the federal government's going to tell me how to run it? No. Literally think about how that would happen. Like people that are advocating for federal legalization, that would take years, and it would be an absolute cluster of a problem to try to fix how to do that. States can't even do it. I don't know. I think people really need to live where you want to live. If you want access, go somewhere with access. If your state's not friendly and you got to figure it out. That's the option you have today.
Well, Tim, it is a chaotic industry to be a part of, that's for sure. And coming into this industry as someone who maybe had some weed when you were younger and now you want to start growing and selling it, do you have any advice for a quote-unquote budding entrepreneur coming into this chaotic space? And we'll close off with this question.
Yes, find some great people that you can work on your project with. Try to stay away from getting investment and capital as long as you can. Start small. Start with a small amount of SKUs. Don't try to get too many strains going. Get known for one thing. So if you find that I want to grow anything you want, like take GDP or some like alien cookies or Mac or anything you want. There's so many strain names, but get known for one thing. That's how you'll grow. The way that we see people fail is you walk in a small grow, they've got 100 strains going, they're psyched on all of them, they're all okay. They're all the same stuff that everyone's doing. If you can come in and bring something legitimately that no one else is doing, or just do it better and be consistent. If I had to guess, I'd say half, if not 3/4 of the operations out there are inconsistent with their production or don't necessarily have the best business practices. Think business first and bring products to the table. That's the number one way to go. And then get in with someone for distribution. Get in with a dispensary that will take your one SKU and start that line, because controlling seed to sale is critical right now. With the pullbacks we've seen in Colorado, California, other states, being able to have a dispensary where you can sell your own product those are the companies that are still around in those, long-term legacy markets. There's more money, I think, to be made on the dispensary side than cultivating right now, just because there's such floods of product. But the reason is everyone's growing flower. It's the number one product, right? You can't make any edibles or gummies or drinks, anything you want to do if you don't have flower. So if you come in and say, hey, I'm going to grow 10 strains of flower, you and everyone else in the State's doing that. What's different? What are you doing different? I can guarantee you the flower that you think that you're the best at, you're not. But you can market great and you can be very consistent and control your distribution. You can do that stuff. Every grow I've ever been in thinks they grow the best product and they think our machine won't work on their bud, even though it's worked on all 10 of their neighbors that I'm demoing at. For some reason, you think your bud's gonna not respond to this machine. So get that out of your head that you're the king shit about anything, because this is a business. Like, you have to look at it like that. And the best people that start to have success, look at the brands that are out there. They're known for one thing. Like, look at Wana. What's Wana known for? They're gummies. There are very few brands that you can say do 10, 20 SKUs effectively. Going into a dispensary, if you look at edibles that are in there, typically one company has an edible brand this is their brand. And so same with flower.
Yeah, that's a great answer, Tim. I think that's a great place to stop. Basically, if you're just getting started, focus on quality, focus on really specializing in one thing. Don't try and spread yourself too thin, because it's just probably not going to work out too well. So, Tim, you are a breadth of information. I honestly learned a ton on this episode. I am so grateful for you joining me. And anything else you wanted to say?
No, as you can tell, I do love talking about this stuff almost to a fault. So I promise if we get a chance with any of your listeners to chat following up on this, I'll try to be more succinct.
All right, Tim, you have a great day.